Hello, this is Vincent at Chivalrous Game presenting the Chivalrous Games Common library. The Common library is a set of tools that you can use in any of your project and is supplied with any Chivalrous game asset. Today we are looking at a new tool that is provided with the Chivalrous Games Common library called the Prefab Helper. It's a lightweight solution to allow you to nest prefabs into your project. I call it a lightweight solution because it's quite performant, but it doesn't have all the normal features that the asset system of Unity provides. For example, if you apply changes on a Unity asset, it will affect all the instances of this prefab. The Prefab Helper does not allow you to apply prefab and propagate it to all its instances, but you can revert any instance of a Prefab Helper to its linked prefab. So I'm just going to demonstrate the limitation of the prefab system of Unity and then show you how you can leverage the Prefab Helper to go a little further. Okay, so in my scene I have a highly detailed model of a car that I just created myself. I'm very proud of it. And I'm just going to use this to show you the limitation of the Unity prefab system. So I have two prefabs in my project. I have a car that is composed of a couple of cubes, and I have got a wheel that is just a single cylinder that I rotate on the side to create the car wheels. If I decide, for example, to modify one of the wheels by adding some detail to it, I could create another cylinder right under here, and I'm gonna rotate it like so, move it around so I actually see what I'm doing, and reduce its scale. It's just going to be some extra detail on the wheel, just like so. And if I click apply on the wheel, then it's going to get the cylinder detail added into the wheel prefab in the project. I click apply, and this change is replicated over to all the other prefabs instances in my scene, as you can see. So this works pretty well. But things get more complicated when you start to nest prefab into one another. This is a good example of something that might happen. You create a car, you create the four wheels, and you should create the wheels as children of the car, because it's all part of the same thing. And so you take your car, create a prefab from it, and eventually you want to add details to the wheel. And you can't link each single wheel to a wheel prefab. The link between this wheel and your wheel prefab is lost because it's a child of another prefab, the car prefab. So if I want to demonstrate it, I could take this detail and create another detail, for example, make it a little smaller, make it pop out a little. And then if I click apply over here, it doesn't change my wheel. It doesn't apply the changes to all the other wheels. It simply changes my car 1 prefab over here. So I don't want to have to replicate this change many times. If I had a car with 18 wheels or even more, then it would be bothersome to change them all over. So how do we fix this issue? Well, you can use a Prefab Helper. If I click on the wheel prefab over here and add a component called the Prefab Helper, then I could link this wheel with the wheel prefab in my project. So when the Prefab Helper is added to a game object, you can see the red icon over here, and over the name of the prefab, it indicates that the prefab is actually not linked to any prefab in your project right now. So I'm just going to expand over here, drag my wheel, and you can see the icon turns green over here too. So I know that this wheel is connected to a prefab in my project. If I click on the wheel, you can see that it's connected to this prefab. So now if I revert this wheel, I'm back to the wheel prefab. I want to create detail on one wheel and get it replicated on all 4 wheels on the car. So I'm gonna add prefab helpers over here, and over here. I'm gonna link the wheel to all of these. I'm gonna apply my car prefab right there. Now the prefab helper doesn't have any apply functionality. As you can see, there's only revert and revert tree. So if you want to actually change the detail on the wheels only once and have it applied on all the wheel, then you have to work on the linked prefab. So I'm gonna click on the wheel prefab, take it, drag it into the scene. So I want to make sure I'm working on the right thing, so I'm gonna move it around and add extra detail. So I'm basically doing what I did a little earlier, adding a cylinder. Okay, and I click apply, and it doesn't get replicated to all the prefab helpers linked to this one, but you can see that it updated in the project. So if I want my 4 wheels to get this change, I have to revert them. I can select all of them, click revert, and the detail appears everywhere. So that's pretty good. It's gonna save you time. And you can even nest prefab helpers into one another. So now I've got the wheels nested into a normal car prefab. Let's say I want to create a whole fleet of these cars. I could, I'm just gonna apply the changes to this car prefab first. And then I'm going to add a prefab helper component to this car, so it keeps in sync with my car prefab over here. I'm gonna apply it, revert it, so you can see my car prefab is okay. Now I want to create, for example, an empty. I'm just going to call it a car fleet. And under this car fleet, I'm going to put a couple of these cars. Let's move it around here. And let's say just another one. It should be enough to demonstrate. 3rd car. Just like so. And I'm going to save my car fleet as a prefab. So I've got my cars. Each car is linked with the prefab helper to the car asset, and each one of these cars has wheels that are connected to the wheel prefab with the prefab helper. So if I decide to modify my wheel prefab, I'm just gonna create another level of detail because I like it so much. So I'm duplicating this, scaling it down a little, make it pop out, and then apply. And let's say I want to modify my car prefab. I want to add something over here. Let's say I'm selecting this cube, duplicating it, and I'm gonna resize it a little. Same principle. Gonna make some great detail come out like so. And I'm going to apply this change to the car. So my car has changed and my wheel prefab has changed, but you don't see any modifications over here because, like I said, the prefab helper won't apply automatically your changes. So if I go to this car, for example, this car over here, if I click on revert, we should see the detail appear on the windshield. There we go. And as you can see, the wheels didn't get any change because I clicked on revert and not revert tree. When you click on revert and you've got nested prefab helpers, it's going to revert your prefab, but it's not going to change any children prefab helper. You can change them manually, like so. You can see the other level of detail appear. Or you can click on the parent most prefab helper and click on revert tree, and it's going to change all the prefab helpers under it. So for example, if I click revert tree on this one, I should see the modification appear on the windshields and on all the wheels. Voila. There you go. So it's pretty easy to keep everything in sync with a nested prefab solution. Now, one other limitation that comes with the Prefab Helper, since you don't have any apply functionality, you have to find all the instances of the Prefab Helper that are used in your project and in your scene. So to help you do that, of course I added the little icons everywhere, but if you use the Prefab Helper a lot, it's gonna get confusing. So I created a search tool. It's a little wizard that you can use by the tool window over here, Common and Prefab Helper search, and you can configure this to locate all the prefabs in your project and in all your scenes, or you can look for all your unlinked prefab. For example, let's say you created a prefab and then linked a prefab helper to it. If you delete the original prefab, of course, the prefab with the prefab helper on it is gonna become unlinked. So this is a useful search mode to find all of these broken links and try to repair them. And the third search mode is the linked prefab. So this is going to help you find all the prefab helpers linked to a prefab. So let's say I want to find all the wheels in my project. I could simply drag the wheel over here and click search. So you're going to get a little progress bar, and when it's completed you get all the results inside your wizard. This can take up a while if you have a lot of these components to search, a lot of scenes, and it took a while in my case because this is the project with the whole Dungeon Master stuff, so there's a lot of elements to search. And this is the search results. So you can see that the searcher found 16 wheel instances in the project. If I, for example, close my car fleet and say, okay, locate me this wheel, you can see that it finds them in the car prefab over here, and then it's going to expand my car fleet. The files in the project won't allow you to expand further than 2 levels, but at least you can see that it's the car fleet that it's selected, because if I click on it, it gets expanded over here. And it's also going to locate instances in the scene, so if I click over here, you can see that it's going to select the instances in my scene. And if I had closed scenes with instances too, they would get loaded over here. So yeah, you can see that these are the project search results. This is a test 1 search result because my scene is called test 1 and it's currently loaded. If I had other scenes, then it would indicate their name and their current state, whether they're loaded or closed. You can also open the search wizard by selecting any prefab element. So this one is linked to the wheel. Let's say I want to find all the other wheels in the project and in the scene. If I click on the search button, it's going to open the Prefab Helper search wizard, and it's already pre-configured to search for the linked prefab helpers to the wheels. So that's about it. You got your prefab helper to help you nest prefabs into your project. I personally think that it's a great tool. I use it extensively, and I think it can be useful to you too. So enjoy. The Chivalrous Games Common library is included in all Chivalrous Games asset and is packed with a ton of tools to help you create your game. You can get it now on the Unity Asset Store. Thank you.